Do you want to know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
And welcome to Real Talk Radio 97.5 FM. WKDW Radio is the broadcasting network for emergencies through the city of Northport. And we are blessed to have that partnership. We're also blessed to have the partnership of our sponsor of our tower, which is Remax Palm Realty, who is sponsoring the tower itself and giving us the capability to reach all of you guys out here. So a special thanks to Remax Palm Realty for doing such a good job in sponsoring the tower. We do appreciate that. I've got a very special guest in the house, Miss Barbara Langdon. How are you doing?
I am doing great, although I have to admit, if my energy level is a little more subdued than usual, we have just come off of one heck of a week. I think we had close to 20 hours of commission meetings this week, and I don't know about the rest of my companions, but I'm beat.
And you've had quite a bit going on.
Oh, we had a lot going on. Yeah.
So why don't you highlight that real quick and give us an update on everything that happened this week at City Hall with all the meetings that you went through?
Wow. Well, Tuesday was our regular commission meeting. We started at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I think we finished, I sort of just put it out of my mind after it happens. I think we finished around 6 o'clock at night, 6 or 6:30 at night. So it was a long day. The Tuesday agenda, for the most part, was mechanical stuff. So as we update the ULDC and as we update the comprehensive plan, we have to formally, by ordinance, discontinue certain sections and enact certain sections. So there were probably, I should have counted this up before I hopped on, maybe 10 or 12 ordinances that were just the mechanics of moving information around or, discontinuing this chapter of the ULDC and, activating another chapter of the ULDC. So a lot of the meeting was mechanical. There were a couple of interesting things. We did do the second reading on our referendum questions. So one of the big topics of this year is the city is going to the voters in this city to vote on a referendum to allow us to borrow money. And I'd be happy to go into that in more detail if you like, John. I don't know if you've been covering that a lot already in your other shows, but it was a second reading for that referendum. And then, just again, a lot of really, really mechanical things. We had an interesting conversation with Sarasota Memorial Hospital, and although representatives of Welland Park didn't speak, Sarasota Memorial Hospital, for their Welland Park site, came to the commission requesting some deviations or variances from our building codes.
Yep.
Which we granted. One was allowing them to go up to 100 feet, 150 feet in terms of the height of the building. Yep. Another was, I hope I can remember them all. Another one was open space was probably the conversation that got the most activity. Our building code requires for that type of a development 10% open space on the property. The hospital really didn't want to commit to that because it would limit them in the future. And it might be 10 or 15 years from now, they might want to put up, and I'm totally making this up, put up an oncology center because of the needs of the community. And if they were hamstrung by, in their point of view, a too restrictive requirement, then it would delay the time for that project to move forward. Staff, they did come to the commission with a 5% open space. The hospital wanted 0% open space. Now, definitely, any project is going to have open space. I mean, there's no way. But what we finally settled on, and everyone seemed to be okay with, staff and the hospital, was no less than 2.5%. Now, we all believe it will be more than that. Sarasota Memorial's hospital's position was that the 5 or the 10% requirement was more the entire community, not just their parcel. We didn't buy that, but we did sort of settle on something that everybody felt they could live with. So that was a pretty interesting conversation. So that project will move forward to fight another day, and we're looking forward to it. I did take the opportunity to remind everyone in the room that the city of Northport has been paying taxes to Sarasota Memorial Hospital for a very, very long time. And we want our hospitals. We need our hospitals. So I have great confidence that that project will move forward. There are still some details that the hospital needs to work out with Welland Park in terms of some of their design requirements and process requirements. But they're both good organizations with excellent representatives. They're smart. They want to do it. They know the community wants it. And I'm really confident that they will figure it out. So I think I'm just kind of scanning through the agenda. There was so much. Oh, yeah. And again, a lot of it was just the mechanics of, updating the comp plan and updating the ULDC.
And we've got a lot going on with all 3 hospitals, believe it or not.
I know. Point. Yeah.
Do we have dates on shovel in the ground type thing yet?
I've not seen any for either of the Sarasota Memorial locations. HCA just had a groundbreaking this week that unfortunately the commissioners, we were all in meetings. I would have attended that. So I suspect HCA will start building in the relative new short term. So we're pretty excited about that. And of course, our behavioral health hospital up on East Price, just a few yards from Toledo Blade Hospital, is well under construction. That is really coming along quickly. So I'm really excited about all of those projects for the obvious reason. We're at arguably 97,000 residents as we speak. Everyone knows we're going to be 250,000 at build out, and we need to have those facilities here. And the experience that residents in Northport have been having is, we were all excited when the SMH on Laurel Road in Venice went up, but shortly after they opened, the other hospital in Venice closed. So they were like stuffed to the gills in day one. And I've had 2 or 3 friends who had family members with medical emergencies. And again, they had to go from Northport all the way to Sarasota to find that health care. So it's time for all of that to stop. We need to build our hospitals here in Northport. And these folks are smart. They'll figure it out.
Well, and we're going to draw in a lot of different types of buyers in this market that we live in right now. And if you don't think we're going to hit 100,000, wait until
Right.
the
These
hospital
hospitals
fund
open.
of the
Mhm.
hospital opens up, because
Yeah.
the transition of workers, and I'm going to say this, we're going to transition a lot of workers from drive away to drive local.
Yes. And
That
thank you, John, for making that point, because
Yeah.
having the health care right here in our city is, of course, the major benefit of it. But you know me, I'm always chasing jobs. And when I think about all of the job and career opportunities that these hospitals represent, and even though Sarasota is nonprofit, we won't get property taxes from those projects. The benefit this city will, and the residents of this city will get from the job opportunities coming from those facilities is just so exciting. And then with the expansion of the Suncoast Technical College in Northport, we just have a lot of things coming together at just the right time that can give folks who live here a lot of great opportunities to improve their financial situations and their career situations. And I always have an eye on that.
Well, and it's important to work with those organizations. The STC, we'll talk about that for just a few minutes, because Mike Indy is the administrator at STC Northport. Done a fantastic job, and really is the heading the pioneer trail for STC here in the Northport region. They're going to build this program out, and the money's already been allotted. The partnerships have already been formed. The building just has to get built, and it's going to be built in the time frame, I think, that the hospitals are going to be built on.
Right.
Because those partnerships are that strong. They are communicating with each other.
Right. Yes, they are.
So how do you feel about the current working relationship that we have as a city, and the rapport and communications we have via the hospitals and STC? Is that wheel turning faster than what we all think about?
I don't know if it's churning faster, but it's certainly progressing. So staff in the technical school and representatives of the hospital have regular meetings and conversations, kind of keeping things in sync. I do know that Sarasota Memorial has pledged a significant amount of support for the expansion of the RN program and the certificate programs, as has HRCA. So one is pledging financial support, another is pledging equipment that the students can practice on. So fingers are crossed. I've not heard that there are any major bumps in the road. So it seems as though all of those conversations are moving forward in a very productive way. So, yeah.
That all these things being said, the city is going to boom. We're going to have an economic boom here based on hospitals.
It's happening now.
It is. I'm just warning people ahead of time, though. When these hospitals come and those doors open up, it is not funny what Sarasota Memorial, Laurel Avenue or Laurel Road has done to that whole community over there.
Right.
How it is all the building that's going on there, the infrastructure that is taking place. It's insane. And we're going to have that same thing happen here.
Yeah.
And that Sumter corridor, that's going to have to change. And for the good. There's the entry into to 75, there definitely is going to be some lights put in, I'm sure, because of traffic flow. Those are all things that as citizens we've been kind of eyeballing anyway, that hey, why aren't they here yet?
Right.
So that's going to change both of our Toledo Blade corridor and our Sumter corridor when all those things get addressed.
Oh, yeah. Well, on Toledo Blade, we have 7 projects circulating. They're in relatively preliminary conversations, but there's a lot of interest and activity starting to happen along Toledo Blade. And a good part of that has to do with the fact that we are installing water and sewer in that intersection. And that's really opening up the area for development. And, I get it. There are a lot of people who live here that don't like seeing the changes. They want the city to stay a sleepy little bedroom community of single family homes. Um, People need to understand that even if we don't add a square inch of commercial property or institutional development or any of that, the nature of this city will change just based on that kind of population growth. And a lot of the people I talk to share with me that they're really tired of driving 30 and 40 miles a day to Sarasota or Fort Myers to go to work. I do worry a little bit about the Sarasota campus of SMH when they move here. As you know, my late husband was a diabetic. We spent a lot of time at Sarasota Memorial Hospital up in Sarasota, and it seems that 90% of the people we talked to, whether they were PT, nurses, dietary people, whatever, would always ask, "Where do you live? Where do you think they lived?" Northport. So I think there's going to be when these hospitals open up, there will be a massive export from the city of Sarasota to Northport in terms of medical professionals. They're aware of that. I'm sure they're doing a lot to begin to counteract that. But people want to work here. They're tired of commuting.
Well, they have a great transition. And we know that firsthand because how they transitioned from one campus to two, which is the Venice location at Laurel Road. They did that superbly. They've also worked with STC again through that transition and hired LPNs. The LPN program at STC Northport is phenomenal and gives everybody a good head start into the RN program. And the RN program will be part of the growth of STC Northport. So you'll be able to transition.
Right.
Those things are all being talked about and done. And I believe that STC is probably going to ramp up before the hospitals. So that influx of nurses coming out. So that those voids are filled pretty quickly.
Right. And I think having an RN program at the STC in Northport is really a nod to that crisis. I mean, there's a shortage of nurses countrywide, and there's certainly a lot of shortage of nurses here in Florida. So I don't think there's an RN. You probably know more than I do because of your involvement with the center, but is there an RN program there now, or will that come when the expansion happens?
That will come when the expansion comes.
That's what I thought. We have an LPN, but not an
LPN program is phenomenal. The equipment there is unbelievable.
Right.
And I do know that firsthand. But the strategy behind the change out is the influencers are the hospitals, and the minute that those hospitals start breaking ground, the STC is going to have to ramp up because they're going to be a vital part of great transition for a lot of the working class that want to go into healthcare, or that want to improve their status, that may be an aide now and want to go LPN or RN. And if you can do it local and work local, go to school local, work local, and work with the hospitals that are helping you through school.
Right.
So those are all factors that play in. And these relationships that all of our commissioners and city staff are building, all these conversations are very powerful when it comes right down to it. And
Yeah,
they're life changing for a lot of families
they are.
in our community.
Yep, they are. And in addition to well, let me just say this about the impact we're already seeing in the housing market with the hospitals coming here. There has been a lot of development of higher intensity apartments, market rate apartments along Price, along Toledo Blade, and along Sumter. And what is stimulating a lot of that development is an acknowledgement that a lot of medical personnel will be coming into the area, and many of them will prefer to rent either in the short term till they figure out where they want to live, or in the long term because personal preference, they don't want to have the responsibility of a single family home. So a lot of that development that we're seeing is in anticipation of those hospitals being built and opening. And one of the secondary benefits of that is that kind of density, sometimes, people don't like that. They think it's too intense. It's happening where it should. It's happening on our major arterial roads. And the benefit that it brings to the community is that with that added density, this city will be in a position to attract nicer restaurants, more varied shopping opportunities. A lot of the people I talk with say, I'm so sick of going to Venice or Sarasota or Punta Gorda to go out to dinner. Why can't we get the nice restaurants here? And what a lot of those restaurants, stores, shopping centers, what they do is they take a look at a potential building site, and then it's not enough that the city has 97,000 residents. It's scattered across 104 square miles. And what they look at when they evaluate a site is they want to see a certain population density within, a 3-mile or a 5-mile radius of that property. They all have their own algorithms for that. And so one of the benefits of that higher density building is it will stimulate that kind of opportunity and development for the city, because we'll start hitting those density requirements of some of those restaurants and other retail establishments. So that'll be a good thing for people who are looking for more entertainment here in the city and not having to travel outside of the city to get it.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into, say, a Dave and Buster's or Top Golf moving into our area, and I'm included. I'm going to say everybody and include myself. I want nicer things. I want to be able to drive down the street and not drive, all the way to the beach. Now, driving to the beach, you get the water, but you also get a little bit of ambiance. Guess what? We can have the same thing here. We've got some beautiful lakes that are available to build out.
Right.
As soon as we get these densities up, we are going to be looked at different. And the relationships with the builders, I want to talk about that a little bit, because everybody wants to pick on the relationship with growth.
Right.
And I'm just gonna shoot the dagger, I guess. I'm a huge advocate for partnering with the growth.
Right.
Because growth is going to come here because of the density. If we don't partner with the growth and we don't start working with these bigger entities that are going to come in, we don't want to get overpowered either. We want our city to look a certain way.
Right.
Do you feel like that those relationships are a vital part of transition?
Oh, relationships are vitally important. And boy, at so many levels, our current staff has really made a concerted effort to develop more positive, proactive relationships with the major developers and builders in the area. In fact, most months, city manager has a sit down with whoever would like to show up. It's a standing meeting where the city talks about things that they're doing, but more importantly, they listen to the builders and the developers in terms of what's working well for them, what isn't working well for them. And as a result of the relationships that they have built with those developers, they have been able over the past year or two to guide or work with those developers to evolve their thinking about how they might develop a piece of property. So let me give you an example. In the northeast quadrant of Toledo, Blade, and 75, I had a meeting almost 4 years ago with the representative of the developer who wanted to build in that area. And the concept was Yon, a gated community of single family homes with a private golf course. And I said to them at the time, ho hum. If you want to get me excited about the project, bring me some commercial with it, that kind of a thing. And I pointed out to them, we have one private golf course that failed and another one that's on its last legs. You better take some notes on that before you proceed. So 3-4 years ago, that was the concept of what that developer wanted to do in that space. I mean, working with the property owner. Our staff, they have worked with people. So let's stay with that one project. Our vision is really moving away from the large subdivisions of single family homes and moving more toward a mixed use kind of headset. So fast forward to today, that project has evolved into, yes, it will still be an area of single family homes. There'll also be an area of higher density homes and condominiums. There'll be some retail, and the developer has agreed to build some playing fields, I believe softball or baseball, that will be open to the community. Now, think about that for a minute. They're going to build it, they're going to maintain it, open to the whole community. So, in a relatively short period of time, staff, because they developed those relationships, were able to work with that developer to see a different way to proceed with that development that will allow them to achieve what they need to achieve and will help the city bring some benefit, increase commercial, some recreational space for the city. I've also, one of the things I ran on when I ran 4 years ago was improving relationships. And at the time I specified the county, but I also had a goal for myself to improve my own relationships with the key developers and builders in our area. I made no bones about it. I ran on jobs, bringing jobs and career opportunities to the city, smart growth, balancing our city budget so that more of our tax burden could be moved off the backs of homeowners and onto the business community, expanding our business commercial footprint in the city. From day one, that has been the reason I've run. I think if you look at my voting record and how I have performed on the dais, I've been very clear that those are my priorities. But I want development that is smart development and brings maximum benefit to the residents of this city. I generated very little campaign contributions my first time through from the developer builder community. I did have a lot of support from the general business community, but not developers. And I think some people in the community might be concerned that, wow, I have obtained a lot of campaign contributions this time moving forward. And people worry that I might be under the influence of these very large companies. My first term, I was all about jobs and career opportunities and training opportunities and balancing the budget. And I will be the same if people choose to reelect me to my position. We've made some progress on the commercial development, so I'm going to be paying more attention to the environmental piece of that as we move forward. But who contributes to my campaign is not going to change the way I roll. And our staff in this commission and the city, we're approaching the expansion of our commercial footprint in the absolute right way. It is not being driven by what developers and builders want to do. It's being driven by the footprint of the city and really evaluating where in the city does more intense development belong, and what do we do in our ULDC and in our code to soften the integration of commercial with neighborhoods of single family homes. Because the reality is wherever you go in the city of Northport, you're gonna bump into quarter acre lots with single family homes. So we've really approached it in the right way, in a very holistic, comprehensive way, in terms of how the city is laid out now and how the roads are planned to expand years from now. And putting that kind of activity where it belongs and putting the requirements in place to soften the impact of that higher activity level when it abuts a single family home. So, yeah, and it's all about relationships and listening to people and talking to people and doing the right thing.
So Robin's got the first question of the day.
I agree. Hi, Robin.
I agree that relationships with the builders/developers are important, but at the same time, relationships and trust with the residents is equally as important. Mm-hmm. Is this directly related? This is directly related to the rezoning of our city, especially in the corridors, and especially in not informing them of the rezone of their neighborhood by following state statutes only. Mm-hmm. She says, I'll add this in. She goes, please understand that I'm not bashing any commissioner.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Robin. And, it's a really challenging thing. And our state statutes, it's not chopped liver. I mean, we need to do a fair amount of communication to meet those state statutes. I think the major question has been, some folks would like to see a personal letter going out to every property that will be affected by the rezoning. And I understand that, but a lot of our property is owned outside of the United States. A lot of the records are really old. It would cost, it was a while ago we priced this out, but in the couple hundred thousands of dollars to implement those kinds of communications with an expectation that that letter would not meet the mark. But I've been talking to a lot of people on this issue recently, and I am going to go back to staff and see, might there be another way of informing that would be more effective? And I don't know if this is possible. I haven't had the conversation yet, but I will next week. Is there some way we can work with the Sarasota County tax collector and include a notification? It would have to go to everybody. I don't think there's sort of any way to link up our parcel information with the ability of the tax collector to send out our bills, but perhaps some general notice that if you live in these areas, you might be impacted by the rezoning. Call this number, go to this website, do this to find out if your parcel is impacted. So I am going to pursue that in the upcoming weeks to see if we might supplement our current communication plan.
And I'll say this: I think it's a great comment, Robin. But I'm going to say this to homeowners or property owners: if you are not paying attention on a yearly basis on what you own, I'm not picking. I'm not bashing either, because the truth of the matter is there are people all over this country who own pieces of property who they have sat on it for 30 and 40 years, have lost their rights on that same piece of property. It is not the city or the county's fault that those things happen. People have to take personal responsibility to stay engaged with what their purchase is. I look at it as buying a car. If you don't change your oil and you don't do the tune-ups, you're going to pay something along the way, okay? But you've got to stay steady at what you own and take good care of it. So
It's a good point.
Personal responsibility has got to be part of anybody's futuristic plan. And if anyone purchased here 30 years ago, it didn't look like it does today, okay? Second off, if you purchased here 30 years ago and you haven't paid attention, that's not on the city. We've made here's the problem I have with not knowing. We've made national news on being the fastest growing city. It's not like we're doing it quietly. It's if you live in Columbus, Ohio, people know where Northport is now. It's because of our growth, and it's because of our hurricanes, believe it or not. And anybody who's watching any kind of weather event that happens here, these things all change. It's crazy how people want to blame government for their lack of involvement. Now, I agree with you, though. I think having another way of getting resource out, I think that's a great way. And without the challenge of the question, nobody would think differently. And Robin and I, we talk. We may not always agree, but the wonderful thing about it is that ideas come from these things, and communication just gets better. And the difference is everybody's listening. Everybody's wanting to do better. I haven't met anybody at City Hall yet that said, no, we're not going to communicate anymore. They're too anxious to come on this live cast and get everything out. So I know that, and I know Robin's super excited about some of the topics we have on, and we're looking forward to get more on Warm Mineral Springs and different things like that. But it's the city is changing. It's growing.
Mhm.
And if you have neighbors that you have contact with, wouldn't you recommend, hey, you might want to call and get an update on your property? It,
Right.
man, I
Right.
got to tell you, there's, as a realtor in town,
Right.
there's so many realtors making phone calls to these landowners trying to get them to sell and
Right.
list the properties. I don't know anybody that is reachable that
Right.
would understand their property value at this point. And I
And
think
and and you
that's
know,
what
to the yeah, and to your point, John, a lot of times when the city, if there's an issue with a property or whatever, and we need to get in touch with a property owner, um, a lot of those records are so old that in, I wouldn't say the majority, but in a number of situations, we've found that the person of record as owning that property has passed away.
absolutely.
Um, and and we don't have the information on where the ownership now lies, and as long as the tax bill gets paid, no one worries too much about it. But another thing that we're proposing in this year's budget that stimulated a little bit of conversation is applying a tax to all of the undeveloped parcels. Now, that will impact a lot of those quarter acre parcels that are intended for single family home development. Some people feel that that's unfair. People pay their taxes. Well, I've got to tell you, I live next to an unimproved lot. And a friend of mine has spent hours ripping out kudzu vines that are coming from that property and messing with the landscaping that I've put in place along my property border. The city, when there's a dangerous tree, we're not allowed. Sometimes people say, "Oh, there's dumping on this site," or blah 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 blah. The city really, it's private property, and we can't go on private property unless there's something going on there that is a clear and imminent danger to the general public, unless we have the permission of the property owner. So there are limits to what the city can do. And so part of what this fund will enable the city to do is take down some of those dangerous trees. We used to do this in the past. A couple of 3 years ago, we voted to stop that program of sort of clearing offensive or dangerous trees from vacant lots, because the city was out a few $100,000
And
every
somebody's got to
year
pay.
because we couldn't recoup it through the
Right,
courts or whatever.
right.
Why should we all pay? Because we have absentee property owners who are not paying attention to their properties, to your point, John. So these are hard issues, and it's a balancing situation. I personally have spent over, I would say, $1,500 trimming an impinging tree on my property because I can't grow grass. That empty lot. And you know what? I'm not going to chase down the owner. One time I did the property, and he did come and trim. And then the property changed hands. I reached out, got no response, just did it myself. So I think it's only fair that folks who own undeveloped lots in the city, they need to pay attention. And if they did, we wouldn't be proposing this it's been a long week, additional tax or fee on these properties.
So another statement from Robin. She's right on this. Just a state of fact regarding notification to property owners. The city uses the property owner's information from the appraiser's website. So therefore the addresses are not old. They're not
Oh,
old.
I wouldn't make that assumption that the addresses aren't old. So long as someone is picking up that
The mayor.
bill and paying the bill. But we try to reach out to that information, and letters get returned, phone numbers are discontinued, et cetera, et cetera. So, Robin, I get your point, but don't assume that
Yeah,
information is up to date. No one proactively tries to keep that information up to date.
Yeah, there's nobody at the county level that's going through and checking the
Right.
availability of everybody at their address. But she's not wrong.
Right.
So, how about, let's say, some of them are unreachable,
Yes.
because of how they got their mailing set up. I know for a fact I've been trying to get a hold of one landowner for over a year. I've
Wow.
got about $40 invested
Yeah.
in certified copies, and
Mhm.
the city's not going to send certified, to let you know. And I'm doing that with one piece of property, and I
Right.
just can't get a response back. Now,
Right.
that doesn't mean they haven't opened it. They received it. I don't know whether that's a good address or not, because nobody's
Right.
even telling me it's not. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's a sketchy situation, because you've got
Yeah.
so many people that will transfer their mailing information from one location to the next,
Right.
and I just don't. They're just they're. I think you're right, though. I think you're right in your objective, which
Mhm.
is there a better way?
Right.
I think if you went into it, and I think Robin would probably agree, if you went into it, is there a better way to get the information in someone's hands?
Or an additional way, and yeah, to sort
I
of
think,
expand. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
But
and 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 I agree with Robin. I think anything would be better than a public and a, a public notice.
right.
I So I think there's some room for improvement, but
Mhm.
creative ideas and creative minds all need to get
Right.
together and try to find a
Right.
better solution. That's
Right.
all.
I mean, the appraisal um, supervisor's information is the best we have.
Sure.
Hence my thought to include some type of a generic notice in the tax bill, the trim notices when they go out. I don't know how much this would cost. I don't know if we would even be allowed to do it, but I'm certainly willing to explore it.
Well, and I think the questions have to be asked.
Right. Right.
So we've got about 7 minutes left.
What else should we?
This has kind of gone really quick, but
It
if
has.
anybody in the listening audience right now has a question, if you're listening on the radio, of course, you can text me at 941-391-4663. Or
Right.
if you're watching on Facebook and you have a question for Commissioner Langdon, we would be more than happy to take them.
Right.
As you can see, Robin was the participant of the day today. Thanks, Robin. I appreciate you.
Robin is very faithful,
Yeah,
both to our commission meetings and to your show. I see her a
Absolutely.
lot. I appreciate her involvement.
So you had a busy week this week. Is there anything on the agenda for next week? As far as the school goes?
No meetings next week in terms of, I'm going to open my calendar, in terms of official commission meetings. But let me look. We will have a big agenda. Now, typically in August, we don't have any commission meetings.
Right,
We are having one on the 6th. Let me make sure. Yep, on August 6th. And that'll be a big meeting. I haven't seen the agendas yet. But there'll be some second readings. It's been a long week. I think we had the second reading on the referendum. It'll be a second reading on ULDC, I believe, but don't quote me. When we get closer, like a week before, the agenda will be published. So I'll talk about it on my Facebook page. And if you could also have someone talk about it on your show, that would be great.
100% going to do that.
Yeah.
And she said, Robin said, hopefully it won't be a 10-hour meeting. LOL.
Oh, Robin, you and me both.
Yeah. So I've got a couple things that I want to throw out there. July 30th, the Island Walk amenity center at 6 p.m. It's closed for the HOA only at Island Walk, but please go and be a participant in the one of the best things that you can be involved in, which is Northport Forward's event, where you're going to get your information straight from our city commissioner, Jerome Fletcher, our city manager, Jerome Fletcher, and our staff who will be present. And a lot of the commissioners also attend. So you're going to get like lots of Q&A, lots of opportunity. That one is a closed event for Island Walk participants only. And then August 5th at the American Legion post out in the Estates on Tannytown, setup is at 5:50, starts at 6 o'clock. Everyone is invited. And that one is huge. You need to participate. If you live in the Estates, ask your questions, get your answers.
Right.
Just like on the show, I say it, and I'm not picking on anybody. Don't listen to neighbors. Don't listen to gossip. Go to one of these meetings and get it yourself. And if it is gossip, take the gossip question and validate it at the meeting. It's a great opportunity to open communications with staff. It's a great opportunity to open it up with the city manager and with commissioners who are present at that forum. And also on August 12th at Heron Creek Golf and Country Club, that one is also just for the HOA members. But Northport Forward, if you can follow their different events, northportforward.com, get on there, check it out, and really participate with them. They are not guiding you on how to vote. They are getting you the information independently and really trying to work with people to do the right thing, which is first and foremost, get educated on topics.
The facts.
Yeah, just get educated. Be Robin. Be a Robin.
Be Robin. Yeah.
So if we had 50,000 Robins in this city, we'd have 50,000 voters. And by the way, I started out 7 years ago by saying, just learn how to vote. Go in and learn how to vote. Now I'll tell you, if you've been at this for 7 years and you've been hearing me say, just learn how to go vote, you should have already learned how to go vote. Now get smart enough to figure out how to vote. It's just not going in and marking a dot or pulling the trigger. Just go in, get yourself educated, understand what's happening. And the more that you educate yourself, the more you're empowered, and the better the city feels about you as a voting member, whether you're on their side or not. Informed voters are the best voters to go talk to, because we could actually have a conversation about multiple things.
Great message, John. Vote, but do your research. And if you don't know any of the candidates in a particular campaign, then don't vote. I mean, I would never want to encourage someone not to vote. Do your research.
Or go meet them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always, it's funny. When you're in public office,
One second. You've been listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM. This is John Rawlings saying thanks. And we will see you on Monday, another exciting broadcast. So please join us. We'll talk to you soon. I'm going to stay live on social media. Thank you and have a great day. All right, go ahead, Barbara.
Okay. So if I can remember. It's interesting when you're a public official, you do become, people are frustrated with inflation and things they see happening, and they blame government, and elected officials represent government. We represent the residents of our communities. Two city staff, we're sort of the directors and the gaskets. So we tend to get that criticism. That's fine with me. But, it's interesting. Facebook is a very interesting beast because folks will come on my commissioner page and they'll say outrageous things about me. And I typically respond the same way. They're never people I know. Very rarely does this kind of comment come from someone with whom I've had a conversation. And I respond all the time. Look, I can tell your comment about me, but you don't know me at all. Let's fix that. Here's my email. Here's my number. Get in touch with me and let's schedule a time to get together for coffee so we can talk about it. Because if you just look at how, for example, how I vote on a particular issue and you don't like how I voted, it's important. I want to know why you didn't like that vote, but I also want an opportunity to explain to you why I voted the way I did, why I thought it was important for us to proceed in the way that I voted. And those folks never take me up on it. I never hear from them. They just want to vent. They don't really want to learn or solve a problem. I am totally okay having an opportunity to talk with someone and having them say to me, Barbara, I just can't agree with your thought process or what you think is important. I think something else is important. Great. Don't vote for me. I'm not your candidate. But please don't go by something someone else says about me on social media and take it as gospel, because oftentimes it's not. Sorry, I wanted to get that out.
That's all right. But, I think every candidate, I think every single candidate wants people to know why they voted. Right. Bill, Debbie, all you guys.
Alice,
you can take this all the way up the ladder. It doesn't necessarily mean, and I agree with you on the fact that we may not always agree.
Right.
But here's the thing. If you're not willing to have a conversation with someone, right, then I myself deal with this on social media sites, and right, nobody wants to have a conversation, and they flat out tell, I don't want to talk to you. All right,
right, perfect. Right. Okay.
Stay in your hole in the ground, and it's okay. I'm okay with that myself, but I'm still attempting to talk to everyone.
Right. Right.
I don't think it's any different than what the commissioners are saying, or even the people who are in the run now for office. They're right, all trying to engage. There isn't anybody. I'm Robin. I can use Robin. Robin's not running for commission, but Robin
very involved
with everyone and tries to, even if she doesn't agree, maybe adapt a thought process for it. Listen, we all have to grow. We keep growing, but I think it's important for everybody to learn one thing, and it's something that we haven't learned on the federal level yet, and we have to learn this on the local level. And it does start at grassroots. We have to start respecting each other, flat out respecting each other. If you have something negative to say about somebody, oh, Lord have mercy. At least have nerve enough to have a meeting with them and tell them why. Right. It's not all of our decisions to judge the character of everyone around us. It's our job to build relationships with our community and those within it. And I think that's truly the essence of city commission and staff at the local level. And I think everybody's doing a good job. I do. I think everybody has their own tendencies. And I think some people need to break tendencies for the good and the bad and the ugly.
Right.
So, you know, but it's all growth. We
Right.
When you talk about a city growing, if you're not willing to grow yourself, so
Right. Right.
that's where I'm going to go with it. But I know we've gone for 5 minutes. But is there
Yeah.
anything you want to add in?
Anything I want to say in closing?
Yep.
You know, I will echo Robin's comment here on the screen. We have 3 city commission seats up for election, re-election. It is vitally important that you do your homework. Don't go by what you hear or what you read on social media. Information gets so distorted, um, or it's from a single point of view, which is fine. People are entitled to their opinion, but you need to develop your own opinion. Don't assume somebody else's. You might have a totally different value system and thought structure than somebody else. So do your homework. District 2, my own district, is the only one that you will see on the primary ballot on August 20th, because there are 3 folks running for District 2. So just take the time. It's easy to get information on everybody on social media. Just verify your source on social media and make sure the information you're getting is from a good source. There are all of these videos. I mean, all of the commissioners are on John's show for a regular cycle. You can watch all of these shows and tell a lot about what we're all about based upon what we talk about and what we share. So, and call us up if you have a question about why we think a certain way or why we voted a certain way or how we might feel about something. Cheapers, call us up, email us, schedule a time for a phone chat or to get together for coffee so that you can get to know us better. Relationships matter, particularly at the local level.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I appreciate you being part of the live streaming today with Real Talk Radio. And once again, I want to thank our sponsor for the tower, Remax Palm Realty, for being the sponsor. And it's great to have the city of Northport as a business partner for the communications of the citizens of Northport. Remember, 97.5 FM is the City of Northport Emergency Broadcasting Network. Thank you so much, Barbara. I appreciate you.
Okay, John, and thank you so much for having me today. It's always great.
Not a problem. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.